You showed up every time. You were patient when they were difficult. You stayed when they pushed you away. You forgave things that other people would have walked away from immediately. You gave your time, your energy, your honesty, your softness, and they took all of it and still treated you like you were not enough, like your kindness was something to take advantage of, like your loyalty was weakness they could afford to dismiss. And the question that has been living in the back of your mind ever since is not about them. It is about you. What did I do wrong? Why was I not enough? What is it about me that makes people treat me this way? I need you to hear this before anything else. The question is wrong, not because your pain is wrong, because the answer to that question will never give you what you are actually looking for. And Carl Jung spent his entire career explaining exactly why. Stay with me, because what I am about to tell you is the most honest thing anyone has said to you about this. Jung made an observation that most people resist the first time they hear it. He said the way people treat you has very little to do with who you are and almost everything to do with who they are. Not as an excuse for them, as an explanation that actually gives you your power back. Here is what happens psychologically when someone consistently takes from a kind person without reciprocating. They are not seeing you, they are using you, and those two things look identical from the outside until they stop. The person who genuinely sees you changes when you are honest about being hurt. The person who was using you becomes defensive, dismissive. Suddenly you are the problem. You have experienced that second version more than once. Jung called this shadow projection, and it explains something you have been trying to understand for a long time. The people who treated you worst were not reacting to who you actually are. They were reacting to what your kindness triggered in them. Your gentleness reminded them of their own, which they had buried. Your loyalty confronted their disloyalty, which they had never faced. Your willingness to stay triggered their awareness of every time they had left. And instead of sitting with that discomfort, they pointed it at you. They made you the problem, because you being the problem was easier than them being the person who had something unresolved inside. This is not an excuse for what they did. It is a map, and the map shows something important. Their cruelty was never actually about you. It was about the parts of themselves they could not face, and you were simply the safest place to put it. Because you stayed, because you were kind enough to absorb it, because your love created the specific conditions where their shadow could operate without consequence. But here is the part that is going to be uncomfortable, and I need you to stay with this, because this is where the real understanding is. Jung said there is a specific type of person who consistently attracts this dynamic, not because they are weak, because they are porous, emotionally open in ways that most people are not, sensitive in ways that make other people feel immediately safe. The kind of person who, without realizing it, signals something to the people around them. I will not leave. I will understand. I will absorb this. And people who have unprocessed pain find that signal irresistible. Not consciously, but the way a wound finds its way to a person who knows how to hold it. You were not chosen because you were weak. You were chosen because you were open. And you were open because that is genuinely who you are. But openness without discernment. Jung said this was the specific psychological pattern he saw most often in the people who kept ending up in this exact situation. Not broken people, extraordinarily feeling people who had not yet learned to ask one question before they gave. Is this person capable of receiving what I am offering? Not everyone is. Some people have not done the interior work required to be inside. Genuine care without exploiting it. And putting your kindness into those people does not transform them. It depletes you. Subscribe right now, because the next video is specifically about how to keep your openness without making yourself available to people who cannot honor it. It is the most important shift a person like you can make. So what do you do with all of this? First, stop asking what you did wrong. You did not do anything wrong by being kind. You did something that required correction in who you extended it to. That is different. One is about your character. The other is about your discernment. Your character is not the problem. Your discernment discernment is what grows from here. Second, understand that the pain they caused you has more information about them in it than about you. What they could not tolerate in themselves, they showed you in the way they treated you. That is not your burden to carry. That is their unfinished work. Return it, not through confrontation, through letting it no longer define how you see yourself. Third, the fact that you are still standing after being treated that way is not evidence that it did not hurt. It is evidence that you are someone who survives contact with other people's unresolved pain and comes out the other side still capable of care. That is not nothing. That is rare. Jung's final word on this was direct. He said the person who gives deeply and is deeply hurt has two options: close or integrate. Closing means becoming someone who no longer gives. Integration means becoming someone who gives with their eyes open. You already know how to give. The next part is learning to see clearly before you do. Not to protect yourself from love, to protect the love you are capable of for the people who are actually capable of receiving it. They exist. They are not everyone, but they are real, and they are worth saving your best for. Share this with the person who has given everything to someone who gave nothing back. They need to hear that what happened to them was not about who they are. It was about what the other person could not face in themselves. Subscribe, because the next video is about exactly how you learn to see the difference before it costs you another year of yourself.